Hello everybody, Jerome Wright here, and once again you're joining me on my Jerome Wright YouTube channel here on YouTube. This video we're going to be doing skull and bones, okay, decoding these guys that's been around seemingly forever here, and they're related here, I guess, with graduates of Yale University, and they go on to becoming these power figures in American societies. All right, basically. First of all, there's several. Yale is this prestigious college, and the administration of Yale actually distance themselves or say that Skull and Bones is not part of their facility. This is a separate society. First of all, I don't buy into that because number one, Yale is this multi-billion, I mean, you're talking about, I think the numbers of them like 20-30 billion dollars, this billion-dollar college entity that could, if it didn't want no parts to do with this society, it could easily say, hey, listen, you're out of here, we want no parts of this, it's negative publicity, this, that, the third, you're done, go, bye. So they haven't done that. And I mean, this society has been thriving and doing well with Yale under the name of Yale, under the college prestigious name of Yale, for forever. And I mean, so therefore Yale cannot enjoy the right to say that they have nothing to do with this group. They have everything to do with this group. They almost fashion and create and make these men who they become. Okay, and there is no separation. There are no lines of separation. These men are Yale. Having said that, I believe that the representation of what is going on with this society, Skull and Bones, I believe that it is backed by Yale, meaning that I believe that the ancient root of Yale, for everything that it stands for, I believe that there is these men are a byproduct of Yale. I believe that their success is backed by Yale, meaning that wherever they get in position, you have three of these members that have went on to become presidents. You have some that became senators, other famous, well-to-do people. I believe that their positions and placement are all backed secretly by Yale. Point blank. Okay, because if Yale didn't want none of this, then it would not happen. Now I'm going to go into what that's just, I just do that out there. I'm going to go into what I'm going to give you something new and different. I always like to bring something new and different to the table that does not have nothing to do with nobody else theory or nobody else's comments. Okay. I did read an article on a Ron Rothenbaum, and he was supposedly had been a Yale student during the time that George Bush went there and Senator John Kerry went there. And just sometime recently, he was supposed to have went out on a ledge and he taped these guys. He's been on this 30-year kind of obsession to try to expose these guys. He went to this Yale. He never got in because he was a nerdy type cat, so he never went in. But he did do a story on it because he's a journalist now and a columnist with the New York Tribune or something. I forget whatever paper he's with there, but you can Google his name, Ron Rothenbaum, and he actually filmed these guys doing a ritual out in there, out behind the building that they have of this tomb that they so supposedly have. And in this ritual, you hear a bunch of chanting and screaming going on. They're drinking from out of a skull, and pretty much what you would expect in a satanic type scenario where there's this worship. But what I didn't like about this is that Rothenbaum downplayed the role play of these people and what was going on in that satanic ritual. He actually downplayed it to be just almost like men or children coming together to symbolize a being fortified that you're only here for a certain period in your life, and you might as well make either the best of it or nothing of it. And it's like they come together to solidify who they are, and life is short and you've got to capitalize on it while you're living. I don't buy into that. I think that's bull. I think that's a bunch of BS. I believe that this is satanic worship, and I'm going to break it down to you right now. And when I'm done, said and done, I believe that you would agree as well too. I do get the impression that this is instinctive impression that this Rothenbaum character, Ron Rothenbaum, whom actually was he attended Yale. I believe that certain individuals like Rothenbaum are placed in an opposite scenario, as in, like, if he's in an opposing party, but yet he is part of the party, and they create these stories. Rothenbaum went on to be successful too. He's a communist. You know what I mean? He's successful from Yale. He's a successful graduate from Yale. So he's doing a column or a story on these people, supposedly exposing them. I believe that he's more so doing them a favor by actually sending the public through his publishings of this story in a different direction than where they need to be going, in other words. You see what I'm saying? So I believe that this Rothenbaum character, because he seemed to be very intelligent. His columns are great. However, I believe that his column is misleading, because if he's following and studying these people for almost over 30 years, I think he could have did a better job than the story that he produced. He did produce this picture of them doing this chant and this going on, but he downplayed the significance of what was actually being described and what was being shown and what was being displayed through this satanic ritual. So you go ahead and make your own opinion on it, and I just put that out there. But I'm going to show you what I have, because this man has studied them for 30 years, and he's came the closest to exposing anything that they possibly had. So now I only been studying these people through my paranormal experience for just less than 2-3 days here in my mind, just mentally wanting to understand what it is about these people that make them so successful. All right, and how they all attended this same prestigious college, which is Yale. All right, let me show you what I've come up with, and I'm going to see if you actually agree with me here. Okay, let me take this out. Actually, well, I don't think I have to. Well, let me take it up here. All right, we're going to take in. I'm going to show you what I have. First of all of the pictures with the graduating classes of these men, when there's supposed to be 15 of them, okay, they all seemingly all pose the same in this picture. I see black magic in this picture, and I'm going to explain what I actually see through this black magic. I see these guys off to either side as being the wings. I see the skull here on the table. So we have a skull and wings. Then I see again the skull here at the center on the table. I see a triangle. Triangle comes out, goes up to this guy here, over and here. So now we have a skull with the wings in a triangle. All right. Now, I also see the center guy as the spine, being the spine for the skull, and this guy also with the crown on his head with the clock in the back. And I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna break it all down. I'm gonna describe it to you. So now we have an implication. Oh, hold on. There's others. Let me go on. Then we have all the earlier on pictures. We have either this guy in the middle with the crossing of the arms, or, which he's not doing in this case, in the pictures if you go back and look in the archive images. And by the way, people, these archive images are kept by no other than Yale. So if Yale has no interest in or no affiliation with the society, why are Yale committed to keeping all of these archive pictures of their graduates? And why is there this involvement? You can't You can't distance yourself from something that you're associated with by name, by a student graduation, by student enrollment, and by holding on to artifacts and everything that actually came from these people. I mean, you can't distance yourself. But again, I'm going to keep going. Now, the crossing of the legs. All right, you got crossing. So you got two crosses, one cross here, one cross there. Then you have a cross here, across the middle. So you have three crosses. And what else do we have here? Oh, and the clock. You have to understand the clock. You have to break the clock down. What is this clock is a representation of? The clock is a representation of royalty. The crosses are a representation of religion. So you have royalty and religion, and I'm going to get to the clock. I'll get to the clocks shortly here. All right, let me not lose my train of thought because, so what do we have in that picture? We have a picture of a representation of black magic. Let me show you what I'm arriving at here. What I see in that picture is, I see this right there. You see that symbol right there? Let me get another pen here. Right there. You see those? You see that cross there and that cross there? That's the two men at the bottom with their legs crossed in the picture. Here you have the X over symbol going down. Again, that's the cross that is on the cloth, the tablecloth, with the skull in the middle. Here's the cross where I came across the table here. There's the crown up here. And off to either side you have the bone and skull. The skull with the bone going in. I can't see it. I'm looking backwards here. But this is also all describing a black magic symbolization. And let me see that cross where that skull. Where is the skull? Oh, here it is here. Up here in the corner up here. There's the skull with the bones right there. All of these symbols that are in here, described here, is right there. Now I'm going to break it down for you in a minute. Hold on, people. Let me keep going here because I'm unscripted here. So what is black magic? I'm going to hurry up too. So what is black magic? All right. Black magic has traditionally referred to the use of supernatural powers or magic for evil and selfish purposes. That describes these gentlemen, this society very well. With respect to the, okay, I don't have to go into all of that. Well, what else was I was going to read about black magic? I guess that's it. No. Okay. That's it right there. Now, let's go to the long case clock that's in the back here. That long case clock. I said that it represented royalty. How does it represent royalty? Well, in all of this, in all of these photos that are taken of this society, its members during that time, that enrollment period, they take their pictures in front of this clock, this grandfather clock. You have to understand what is the meaning of the grandfather clock. Each member that stands here in the middle is almost wearing the top of the clock as a crown. You take that and associate that with royalty, with the crown, or just being topped off with a crown. So you say, well, where does this fit in at? Well, what most people don't know is that the grandfather clock evolved and it has a name inside of it. There is what is called a royal pendulum. A royal pendulum. Okay? Alright? So this gives that clock the meaning of the royalty that I'm actually describing. Alright? And it actually meaning that each swing of the period that takes the second turn. Okay. Along narrow, exactly. Okay. Periodic for 2 decades. I'm hearing the clock. And it appears in clocks 1660. The year 1660. Okay. Now, which is amazing because I just read something about the 1660 in dealing with this witchcraft and all, but this is crazy. All right, so beginning with the year 1660, this clock had this royal pendulum in it. So I'm associating the clock with royalty. I'm going to keep going because I don't want to get confused here, because as I'm going, things is coming into my head and I'm getting cross confused here. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep bringing up these points that I actually have here. All right. So we have the two crosses with the man indicating that by crossing their legs. So we have the two crosses here, then the cross across the table. Okay, so we have the three crosses. We have the skull and then we have the wings. The men coming out represent the wings. Now, there's something else about this. This group is only composed of supposedly 16 members. It's my position that there is a 16th member. The 16th member is actually described in the skull. So this changes the whole image of this picture. Death and resurrection. The entire image you're seeing, not 15 members, but 16 members, according to the concept behind this image. Because they do not consider this member to be dead. I'll explain that in a minute. So we have 16 members, which brings this into something else. Now, 16 means in black magic and in satanic symbol means felicity. All right. So some of you can take this and go in a different direction with it than where I'm going. However, you see all of the symbolizations and the special meanings that is behind the pictures of these guys, and all of them come out pretty much the same. All right, so now we have that. Now I'm going to tell you something else. Let's go to this skull. They have been known to be drinking out of the skull. Oh, by the way, what else ties my... Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. The other thing was dealing with royalty and religion. How you know that I'm on point about the crosses, which represent religion, and royalty, which is at the center of all of this. Religion and royalty is the beginning of everything, which is afterwards. The Masonics, everything that you want to deal with, and when they want to talk about this Illuminati, all of that. I mean, there's this ancient rooted religion and ancient rooted royalty first. It's at the center of everything. It is everything. So I'm stating that here represents the crosses is a representation of the religion. And by the way, people, religion actually has this skull. And all of the ancient Renaissance artworks with Mary Magdalene, with Christ, all you see is the skull. And then there is always this symbolization with royalty. Now, this Rothenbaum, and in his article, Ron Rothenbaum, in his article, he stated that there is members which are dressing up as popes, dressing themselves as popes. Not just that, however, there is another member that comes in. There's a pope. There's a member dressed as a pope with his foot on a stone skull. In these secret ceremonies that they're having in this tomb that these members are having. Then the next thing is that another member comes down with a sword and talking about "I knight thee," which is a representation of royalty. So with the Pope image there, we have an image, the discussion of this religion, which I just described being here by the crosses, the three crosses, and down here in this section, and then in the background with the royalty symbolizing the crown, this figure here in the middle being crowned. Now, maybe I haven't even checked, I haven't gone as far thus far, but perhaps we can possibly link the center person to that of having royal ties, meaning that this figure here might have a royal connection. The person that always appears here in the center might be linked to the royal connection, which symbolizes why this is being symbolized as the crown back here. So just by simple name checking or bloodline checking or family tree checking, this figure in the middle always could be a representation of royalty. Just by name, I mean in reality, just by name or just by bloodline, this figure here. So, however, what I'm stating is that in these ceremonies that they're having, they go through these rituals, these satanic rituals, where they actually are dressing themselves as popes and as royal figures, which is crowning another figure. Okay, so we're not off base here, people. Where I'm at, where I'm discussing. All right, now, what do we have here? We said that this is a triangle with the skull in the middle. We got 16 members, including the skull. These are the wings, the skull wings. And we have a crown. I've given you all of those symbols, which is actually tied in here. Also, here's another image where it is George Bush. I'm going to go with that. There's George Bush up in there, and you see the arrow at his head up there by the clock. And you see that this picture, also later dated, is also pretty much the same. I'm going to have to hurry up here too. Here's a image of Futuna's wheel. And it's almost similar to what I'm actually discussing here. And notice that the skull in the middle is that of a monkey's head. And look off to either side. It's almost like the scales of justice there. And then you have the plumb bob coming down to, right there, that's the plumb bob there, coming down to the, showing you that there's a change, a genetic altering of the skull. Oh, by the way, people, this drinking out of the skull thing, let me go back to that real quick. Okay, I'm going to be all over the place. I might be able to put a little bit more in writing, and I'm going to have to speed up now. This thing with the skull, did you know that a skull is alive and bones? There's bones there, thigh bones there. That these bones are alive up to, they said that up to millions of years later, meaning that the DNA in the bones is still alive, can be extracted. You didn't know that, did you? So we have a scenario where DNA can be extracted from these bones or these skulls up until like 80 million years later. And at certain levels, a pyramid, now I gave you a pyramid right here. At certain pyramid levels, the DNA, certain parts of the DNA dies. So you have a clock symbolizing time and royalty. So let me break it down to you like this here, without trying to go overly explainative of all of this. Is that at a certain period in time, a certain extract of DNA can be taken from the skull without being bothered with the part that they don't want. You see what I'm stating? So, having the knowledge that I have, let's just say that I want it. In this case, this is not Geronimo. Let's just say where they supposedly had taken Geronimo's skull. Let's say they taken Geronimo's skull X amount of time after his death. Then I know that based on my scientific knowledge of DNA being kept alive, that when I go and take Geronimo's skull, that I can get a certain part of Geronimo's DNA without the other part coming with me. You see, without the other part coming. In other words, I would know that at that point, that part of his DNA would be gone, dead, according to how long DNA can survive in bones after one's death. So there is a science behind this chemistry of these skulls appearing on this table. Because if they have, let's just say that they have a skull from Jesus, there's a record of these people's DNA and how far it can go and what can be done. In other words, they can tap into ancient DNA at certain points, like a time machine. They can go back to certain times to where this DNA, the properties that they want out of this skull, they can now extract safely without worrying about the part that is harmful to them that they do not want. And I don't have enough time to explain all of that now, but I do have some of that in my other videos. So this skull has more significant value than what you can imagine. Here's a human skull and symbolism. All right. Okay. Human skull and symbolism. The skull symbolism and the attachment of symbolic meaning to the human skull. The most common symbolic use of the skull is as a representation of death and mortality. Here's Saint Jerome by Lucas with leading. Look at this. Right there. Saint Jerome with the skull. So in most common uses in symbolism, it means mortality. Resurrection and mortality. Now, again, here's another, I'm going to go with this, another image of the Skull and Bones members. There is another class of them right there. Look at the arms crossed in the middle. I'm stating that all of this means a cross-referencing of these gentlemen with the skull. It's black magic people, which represents cross-referencing of DNA. It represents homosexuality, meaning homosexuality amongst these men. Okay, it means that sharing of DNA through these homosexual acts. It means interacting with the skull as well, with the DNA, with the skull. Here's another picture. The center man has his arms crossed behind his back. All of the pictures have the same symbolic message. Here's another one with the legs being crossed at the center and the arms behind the back again. Where's the one where the guy has his penis? I like this one here because the guy has his penis clean up on the other guys. Is it that one now? Here. Look at this guy here. He has his crotch pressed tightly against the other guy there. Right here. Right there. Look at his crotch, how he actually purposely have his body bent in onto the shoulder of this guy with his penis. Alright, skull and bones, skull and bones, skull and bones. Alright, I know I'm running out of time here. I'm going to have to let this go. Alright, it's my position, people, that there is more, it's a representation of black magic, almost like a selling of your soul. And my position is that what is happening here is that these guys are involved in, the 322. Let me hear them do that real quick while I have that here. The 322. Just like some others, before I even looked at online, if anybody had figured out what I have figured out, I went to go check after I came up with my analogy. I went to go check the 322. Oh, by the way, two people, the bone, this skull representing with the bones coming back into his mouth, to me is a representation of eating bone marrow, eating bone, eating DNA. That's what that represents to me. And the other way is representing poison. In this sense here, it's representing resurrection through eating bone marrow, which we all know has DNA. And that's what that represents to me. Okay, now the 322, I'm going to have to hurry up. The 322 comes back to the Georgian calendar, which is actually symbolic of the Pope and Christopher Clavis. Okay, about the changing of all time being one. You have to check that out. I'm running out of time. I'm going to have to end this video right quick in a minute. It's the Georgian calendar, which was instituted by Pope, what is it? What is this Pope's name? Damn it, Gregory the 13th. Pope Gregory the 13th. All right, and you have to go into that and check that out. And by the way, people, Pope Gregory the 13th also attended college, a law university. All right, so this is and he's supposed to be one of the most evil popes of all times. He killed many people, ordered the dethronement of Queen Elizabeth I. All of this is all mentioned in here, and I believe that this is an association with what is actually going here. This Pope, okay, which is also symbolic. I'm going to put a little bit more in writing. I'm going to end my video there. I'm trying to put some more in writing on what I came up with. Thank you. This video is unscripted, so it is what it is.